Children, as you know, in the video first, I have explained you the chapter number 1 of 7th class science, that is nutrition in plants. Now, since chapter has finished, so now this is the time to complete the exercise also. So, NCERT exercise chapter 1st, nutrition in plants, textbook page number 9. The first question of NCERT exercise is, why do organisms need to take the food? Organisms need to take food because number 1, they want to grow. Second one is they want to have energy. Third one is they want to repair their damaged body parts. Because of above 3 reasons, organisms want to take the food. As you know that with the passage of time, all organisms grow. So for growth, they require energy. And that will come when food will be taken and it gets digested. Second one is they want to have energy. Second reason is since they want to have energy because they have to perform the so many day-to-day activities like excretion, reproduction, digestion. For all these processes they require the energy. That is why they want to take food. Third one is in our body there are so many cells. Sometimes due to disease or some injury that body parts gets damaged. To repair those damaged parts, body require energy, and they may get that energy from the food also. That is why they want to take the food. Now question number 2. What is the difference between parasite and saprotrophs? The difference between parasite and saprotrophs are as follows. Number 1, parasites feed on living organisms. Saprotrophs, they feed on dead and decaying matter. Second one is they take ready-made food from host organism. They take food from dead and decaying matter by breaking it through secreted enzyme. The third difference between parasite and saprotrophs are like this. They have well-defined body system like mouth. Saprotrophs, they don't have well-defined body system. The examples of parasites are cuscuta, bedbugs, leeches, while saprotrophs, fungi and bacteria. Now question number 3. How will you test the presence of starch? Now question number 3. How will you test the presence of starch in green leaves? The presence of starch in leaves can be tested with iodine solution, which gives blue-black color with starch. So to conduct this experiment, you require some green leaves, iodine solution and petri dish. So now the method of this one is like this. Boil some green leaves in alcohol in a test tube so that they become colorless. When we boil the green leaves, their color will be discharged and they become colorless. They then wash the leaves in fresh water. When you wash these leaves in fresh water, so whatever alcohol content is present in the leaves, that will go to the fresh water. Now transfer these leaves to the petri dish and add some drops of iodine solution. Turning of leaves color blue-black indicate the presence of starch in green leaves. Question number 4. Give a brief description of the process of synthesis of food in green plants. So dear cadets, as you know, the process of food synthesis in the plant is known as photosynthesis. The process of synthesis of food in plants is known as photosynthesis. In photosynthesis, as you know, in the green leaves, there are one pigment. The name of that pigment is chlorophyll. This chlorophyll absorbs the sunlight and with the help of water and minerals which are absorbed from the soil and carbon dioxide, they turn the absorbed mineral and water carbon dioxide into carbohydrate. That is also known as starch. So exchange of gases, basically in photosynthesis 2 types of gases are used. One gas, that is carbon dioxide, which is absorbed from the atmosphere. Other gas, that that is oxygen which is evolved in the photosynthesis, they exchange through the stomata. Stomata are the small pores which are found on the upper surface of the leaves. The important raw material for the photosynthesis is sunlight, carbon dioxide, water and chlorophyll. If these things are not there, plants will not synthesize their food. The process of photosynthesis can be summarized as follows: CO2 plus H2O, sunlight, chlorophyll, that is C6H12O6 plus O2. Question number 5. Show with the help of a scale that the plants are the ultimate source of food. Answer is, the following diagram depicts the synthesis of carbohydrate or glucose by the green plants in the presence of sunlight and the transfer of energy to herbivores and then to the carnivores or consumptions. So you can see here, this is plant. These are the leaves. In these leaves, one green pigment called chlorophyll is found. Now, what the root system of the plant, they absorb water. Now this water through xylem rises up from the atmosphere. Now green leaves, they absorb carbon dioxide gas through their stomata. Now sunlight is present here. Sunlight continuously they are getting. Now their leaves, with the help of these raw material, it will be converted into glucose and oxygen gas will be evolved. Now this glucose or carbohydrate is eaten by the herbivorous animals like deer and some other. When these animals are eaten by the carnivorous animal, that is lion, tiger, so these energies subsequently transferred from one level to another level. In this food chain, we observe that carnivores like lions depends on herbivores for food and energy. A herbivore gets its food and energy by consuming plants. Plants manufacture their food with the help of sunlight. Thus, herbivores and carnivores are all directly or indirectly depend on plants for food. Question number 6. Fill in the blanks. Green plants are called herbivores since they synthesize their food. The food synthesized by the plants is stored as starch or carbohydrate. C. In photosynthesis, solar energy is captured by the pigment called chlorophyll. During photosynthesis, plant takes in carbon dioxide and release oxygen gas. Answers I am flashing. Question number 7. Name the following. A parasitic plant with yellow, slender and tubular stem, that is known as Cuscuta. Second one, a plant that has both autotrophic and heterotrophic mode of nutrition, pitcher plant. Third one is the pores through which leaves exchange gases is called stomata. Some of these questions are, the first answer is Cuscuta, second one is the pitcher plant, third one is the stomata. Take the correct answer. Amarvate is an example of number 1 option autotroph, then parasite, saprotroph, host. Now B number. So Amarvate is an example of parasitic mode of nutrition. The plant which traps and feeds on insect is called pitcher plant. Answer is as follows. The plant which traps and feeds on insect is pitcher plant. 4. Question number 9. Match the items given in column first with those in column second. Column first. Chlorophyll, nitrogen, amarvate, animals, insects. Column 2, bacteria, heterotroph, pitcher plant, leaf, parasites. The correctly matched content column first and column second are as follows. Chlorophyll, leaf, nitrogen, bacteria, amarvel, parasite, animals, heterotrophs, insects, which are plant. Mark P if the statement is true and F if it is false. Number 1. Carbon dioxide is released during photosynthesis. Answer is false. Plants which synthesize their food themselves are called saprotrophs. False. Now third one is the product of photosynthesis is not a protein. True. Solar energy is converted into chemical energy during photosynthesis. True. Question number 11. Choose the correct option from the following. Which part of the plant takes in carbon dioxide from the air for photosynthesis? Number 1 is the root hair, second one is stomata, third one is the leaf veins, fourth one is the sepals. So correct answer is stomata. Question number 12. Choose the correct option from the following. Plants take carbon dioxide from the atmosphere mainly through their leaves. The correct answer is leaves. Dear cadets, as you know that in 7th class science, especially in the new books, they have given one extra question. But in old book it is not there. So the question is like this. Why do farmers grow many fruits and vegetables crops inside large greenhouse? What are advantages to the farmers? So farmers grow many fruits and vegetables in greenhouse because to save it from insects and birds. Second one is to trap sunlight in the greenhouse. It does not allow it to go outside, so the sunlight trapped plants grow well. So the sunlight trapped and plants grow well. So try to understand here. Greenhouse basically is good for growing the vegetables and small plants. Number one thing is completely your crops and fruits will be saved because near to it insects and birds will not go. Third one thing is, as you know, for the growth of plants, sunlight is very much necessary. So once the sunlight goes inside the greenhouse does not let it to go outside. So all time they are getting the sufficient sunlight and their growth will be well. To the farmers of greenhouse effect. Farmers can maximize the seasons of fruits and vegetables. As you know, nowadays fruits and vegetables, all kinds of fruits and vegetables are available in all seasons. So who is responsible for this one? Greenhouse can maximize the seasons of fruits and vegetables. Second one, fruits and vegetables can grow well. Since in climate there some harsh climatic conditions are there. But due to greenhouse, our fruits and vegetables can be saved from harsh climatic conditions like high temperature and low temperature. As you know, the photosynthesis is very important process in this earth. So here I have given you one animation. Here one animation has been given for you to understand the photosynthesis process in better way. So let us have idea about the photosynthesis in one of the animation.
Do you know how green plants make their food? They utilize the energy of the sun directly to prepare their food by the process of photosynthesis. Plants take up carbon dioxide from air and they absorb water and minerals from soil through their roots. The absorbed air, water and minerals are converted into glucose. Oxygen and energy in form of ATP are also released in the process. Plants thus purify the atmosphere by the process of photosynthesis.
Here is second animation for you, that is regarding the saprotrophs.
When a plant or animal dies, it leaves behind nutrients and energy in the organic material which has composed its body. Some animals, called scavengers, eat this organic matter and reduce it to smaller pieces. Decomposers further decompose the dead remains and waste, perhaps, of the organisms. Decomposers break down the complex organic substances into simple inorganic substances. These broken down products go into the soil and are used up by the plants. Hence, it is a natural way of soil replenishment. Decomposers are heterotrophic in nature. They break down the cells of other organisms to get energy, carbon, and nutrients for their growth and development. Decomposer microorganisms are also known as saprophytes and generally include bacteria and fungi. A gram of soil typically contains 40 million bacterial cells, which can break down just about any type of organic matter. Saprophytic fungi are the largest group of fungi which grow on dead organic matter. Unlike bacteria, most saprotrophic fungi grow as wide, extensive branching network of hyphae, that is, mycelium, which penetrates the organic matter. Although decomposers are generally located at the bottom of the ecosystem, such as food chains and food webs, they play a crucial role in the environment. Thus, decomposers and scavengers are vital components of the nutrient cycle. Without decomposers, the nutrients would not cycle back into our environment and the waste would continue to accumulate at an alarming rate.
Dear cadets, to understand the structure of stomata, here is one more animation for you that will explain you how the stomata works, what is their structure and what is their importance for the plants.
The carbon dioxide necessary for photosynthesis enters into the leaves through the small openings or pores in the leaves, known as stomata. Likewise, oxygen produced during photosynthesis diffuses out through these pores. Stomata is surrounded by many apical cells. Stomata have an internal opening or pore called the stoma. The stoma is flanked by two apical cells called as guard cells. These cells have differential thickness, that is, thin outer wall and thick inner wall facing the stoma. Each guard cell consists of a nucleus, peripherally arranged chloroplasts, and a large central vacuole. The rigidity of the guard cells control the opening and closing of the stomata, which in turn